Have you ever trusted someone so deeply, only to realize you were just part of their joke? In this video, we're diving into a powerful story about betrayal healing and what it really means to reclaim your voice after emotional manipulation. Whether you've experienced toxic friendships, emotional gaslighting, or you're just on a journey of self-discovery, this is for you. Stay tuned until the end for a moment of quiet truth you won't forget. Let's begin. I once believed in friendship until the night I almost took. There was a time I trusted laughter more than silence. Laughter we met in college, two kids with backpacks full of sarcasm and zero ambition. He was the loud one, the energy in the room. I was quieter, more observational. But I gravitated toward his chaos like moss. It started innocent, a fake lottery ticket on my birthday that made me scream in the middle of a crowded cafe. A bag of marshmallows swapped for cotton balls during our summer road trip. He once convinced me my car got towed when it was parked right around the I laughed. Every time. Even when my stomach twisted for a second too long, I still laughed, because that's what friends did. We were in on the J. Also, I thought. We both graduated, both ended up in the same city, same apartment, different jobs, but the same rhythm. He worked nights, I worked freelance from home. We'd sync our days with random food runs and late-night rants about life. The shared mess of our apartment. Until one night it snapped. It started with a bro, something's wrong. Come quick, kiss. Drift was the underground bar 2 blocks from our apartment. The kind of place where everyone wore black and the music hurt your ears. I was editing footage when the text buzzed in, and for some reason the tone made me pause. No emojis, no LOLs, just straight text. It wasn't like Aiden. He usually wrote in chaos voice memos, gifs, poorly spelled threats. But this? I grabbed my coat and ran. No questions. Just a thudding heart and a tunnel there. The alley behind Drift was slick with rain and shadows. A faint whir of music pulsed through the bricks. The air smelled like metal and cigar, and then I saw him. Curled up on the pavement, pale, his hoodie soaked, a small red trail from his mouth. I froze. For a second, I couldn't even move. Something primal kicked in my lungs, forgot how to breathe. Aiden. My voice cracked. He didn't move. I sprinted, dropped to my knees. My fingers shook as I pulled his shoulder gently. Hey, come on, wake up. What the hell happened? His eyes fluttered. Then he coughed. Then he smiled. No, not smiled. Grinned. A wide, perfect, smug grin. Got you. My heart stopped. I didn't move. I couldn't. My body was paralyzed, suspended somewhere between rage and disbelief. He sat up slowly, wiping the fake blood from his lips with a napkin he pulled from his hoodie pocket. You should have seen your face, man. I didn't answer. You looked like you were about to cry. Still, nothing. A long pause. Aiden finally noticed the look on my face, the kind of silence that doesn't forgive. Dude, it's just a prank. That line, it's just a prank. Those words sliced deeper than I expected, because something in me cracked. I stood up, slowly, hands clenched, jaw tight. You faked a fucking overdose. Aiden's smile faltered, in a dark alley, in the middle of the goddamn night. He laughed nervously, rubbing the back of his neck. Okay, maybe I went too far, but too far. My voice was shaking now. I thought you were dying. Jesus, man. Relax. It's not that serious. But it was. It was that serious. Something in my chest was collapsing inward like a lung deflating, like oxygen refusing to fill me. I turned and walked. Fast. My feet splashing through puddles I didn't even see. My ears were ringing. I didn't look back. I don't remember getting home. I remember the silence. The way it swallowed every corner of the apartment, my laptop still open on the desk, the cursor blinking. I sat on the floor and stared at the wall. Aiden didn't come back that night. He texted the next morning, Okay, maybe it was messed up. But you're being dramatic, man. I didn't answer. I didn't go outside for 3 days. I couldn't. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw him lying there, motionless, pale. And every time my body reacted like it was real, like I was there again, knees hitting wet pavement, panic clawing at my throat, and then that grin, that fucking grin. It rewrote everything, rewrote our history, made me question every laugh, every memory. Had it all just been a stage for him? Was I just a prop? I wanted to scream, to break something, but I just sat there, numb. 3 days later, I left the apartment. I didn't tell him. I didn't even know where I was going, just walked, letting the cold air slap me awake. That's when I saw her, Elena, sitting in the coffee shop near our building, her head buried in a sketch pad. She looked up, met my eyes, and tilted her head like she saw me. Not just noticed, saw. "Hey," she said gently. "You look like you've seen a ghost." I almost said it. I almost said no, just lost a friend. But all that came out was, yeah. I once believed in friendship, until the night I almost... There was a time I trusted laughter more than silence. Laughter, ha. We met in college, 2 kids with backpacks full of sarcasm and zero ambition. He was the loud one, the energy in the room. I was quieter, more observational. But I gravitated toward his chaos like moss. It started innocent. A fake lottery ticket on my birthday that made me scream in the middle of a crowded cafe. A bag of marshmallows swapped for cotton balls during our summer road trip. He once convinced me my car got towed when it was parked right around the I laughed. Every time. Even when my stomach twisted for a second too long, I still laughed. Because that's what friends did. We were in on the J. Also, I thought, we both graduated, both ended up in the same city, same apartment, different jobs, but the same rhythm. He worked nights, I worked freelance from home. We'd sync our days with random food runs and late-night rants about life. The shared mess of our apartment. Until one night, it snapped. It started with a bro, something's wrong. Come Quick Drift was the underground bar 2 blocks from our apartment. The kind of place where everyone wore black and the music hurt your ears. I was editing footage when the text buzzed in, and for some reason the tone made me pause. No emojis, no LOLs, just straight text. It wasn't like Aiden. He usually wrote in chaos voice memos, gifs, poorly spelled threats. But this? I grabbed my coat and ran. No questions, just a thudding heart and a tunnel vision. The alley behind Drift was slick with rain and shadows. A faint whir of music pulsed through the bricks. The air smelled like metal and cigar. And then I saw him, curled up on the pavement, pale, his hoodie soaked, a small red trail from his mouth. I froze. For a second, I couldn't even move. Something primal kicked in my lungs, forgot how to breathe. "Aiden." My voice cracked. He didn't move. I sprinted, dropped to my knees. My fingers shook as I pulled his shoulder gently. Hey, come on. Wake up, what the hell happened?" His eyes fluttered. Then he coughed. Then he smiled. No, not smiled. Grinned. A wide, perfect, smug grin. "Got you." My heart stopped. I didn't move. I couldn't. My body was paralyzed, suspended somewhere between rage and disbelief. He sat up slowly, wiping the fake blood from his lips with a napkin he pulled from his hoodie pocket. "You should have seen your face, man." I didn't answer. "You looked like you were about to cry." Still nothing. A long pause. Aiden finally noticed the look on my face, the kind of silence that doesn't forgive. "Dude, it's just a prank." That line, "it's just a prank." Those words sliced deeper than I expected, because something in me cracked. I stood up, slowly, hands clenched, jaw tight. "You faked a fucking overdose." Aiden's smile faltered. In a dark alley, in the middle of the goddamn night. He laughed nervously, rubbing the back of his neck. "Okay, maybe I went too far, but too far." My voice was shaking now. I thought you were dying. Jesus, man. Relax. It's not that serious. But it was. It was that serious. Something in my chest was collapsing inward, like a lung deflating, like oxygen refusing to fill me. I turned and walked, fast, my feet splashing through puddles I didn't even see. My ears were ringing. I didn't look back. I don't remember getting home. I remember the silence, the way it swallowed every corner of the apartment. My laptop still open on the desk, the cursor blinking. I sat on the floor and stared at the wall. Aidan didn't come back that night. He texted the next morning. Okay, maybe it was messed up, but you're being dramatic, man. I didn't answer. I didn't go outside for 3 days. I couldn't. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw him lying there, motionless, pale, and every time my body reacted like it was real, like I was there again, knees hitting wet pavement, panic clawing at my throat. And then that grin, that fucking grin. It rewrote everything, rewrote our history, made me question every laugh, every memory. Had it all just been a stage for him? Was I just a prop I wanted to scream, to break something? But I just sat there, numb. 3 days later, I left the apartment. I didn't tell him. I didn't even know where I was going, just walked, letting the cold air slap me awake. That's when I saw her, Eleanor, sitting in the coffee shop near our building, her head buried in a sketch pad. She looked up, met my eyes, and tilted her head like she saw me. Not just noticed, saw. Hey, she said gently, you look like you've seen a ghost? I almost said it. I almost said no, just lost a friend. But all that came out was yeah. I went back on a Saturday morning. Not because I wanted to, but because I needed to reclaim my voice. The apartment door creaked the same way it always did. The scent of stale takeout lingered like a ghost. Aidan's jacket hung on the same hook it always did. The same water ring stained the corner of the coffee table, where he always dropped his beer without a coaster. Everything was the same, but it felt wrong, like walking onto a stage set that had not been touched since the curtain fell. Aidan was on the couch, eyes locked on his laptop screen. He wore those stupid novelty socks again, the ones with slices of pizza and aliens holding pepperoni. He looked up, grinned. Hey, look who's back. Took you long enough. I didn't smile. His grin faltered just a little. Still salty, I closed the door behind me and leaned against it, arms crossed. I came to talk. He raised an eyebrow. You mean yell at me? No. That surprised him. No yelling, no drama, just clarity. He closed the laptop slowly, sat up straighter. Okay, shoot. My mouth felt dry. I need you to understand something, I began. What you did wasn't just a prank. It was a violation. He opened his mouth, but I held up a hand. Don't. Not yet. Let me finish. He leaned back, arms folded now. Defensive. I thought you were hurt. I thought you were dying. That panic, that fear. It felt real. My body believed it. My brain did. And the moment you smiled, something shattered. I didn't know how to breathe after that. Silence. Aidan scratched his chin. It was supposed to be dramatic. That's what makes it land, man. You know that. That's the problem. You wanted drama, and you used me to get it. He laughed, but there was no joy. Come on, it's not like I filmed it. But you could have? I stepped forward now, voice rising not in volume but in weight. And, if you had, what would you have done? Posted it, waited for views. Let strangers laugh while I fell apart. He looked away. You're exaggerating. No, you're minimizing. I paused. Then, softer. Why did you do it, Aidan? He shrugged. I don't know. It was funny. No, try again. He looked up then. His eyes were darker now, not cruel, but tired. I guess I wanted to feel something, he muttered. Lately, everything's been grey, boring. You work. I work. We barely hang anymore. And I don't know, I thought maybe if I made you feel something, we'd both feel something again. I blinked. That wasn't what I expected. You wanted to scare me because you felt numb. He nodded, looking ashamed now. Sounds pathetic when you say it like that. It is pathetic, I said, but not unkindly. But it's also honest. He sat in silence. I could tell deep down he knew. Maybe he had known all along. Why didn't you just say that I asked? Because saying, I'm sad, doesn't make people laugh. He was right, and also very wrong. We talked for an hour after that. Not about jokes, not about blood capsules or haunted hospital videos. About real things. Like how long it had been since we'd had a real conversation. How our friendship had slipped from late-night confessions to memes, sharing and sarcastic jabs. How somewhere along the way, cruelty became comedy. He admitted to more. The fake emergency text wasn't a one-off. He had staged it, thought it through, even practiced the way he'd slump against the wall, just to get the timing right. I wanted to see if I could pull it off, he said quietly, to see if you'd fall for it. And if I hadn't, he looked at me, then I would have been disappointed. I laughed, bitter, hollow. So it was a test. He didn't answer, but I already knew. When I left the apartment, I felt lighter. Not happy, not healed, but lighter. The weight of unspoken betrayal had finally been named. That mattered. I went back to Elena's. She was painting when I arrived, her hair tied up in a messy knot, fingers smudged with blue and black. You look different, she said, not looking up. Do I like someone who finally stopped waiting for an apology that'll never come? I dropped my bag by the door, sank onto the rug beside her. Is that a compliment? She smiled. It's freedom. I watched her brush move across the canvas. Swirls of shadow and sky. A lone figure standing on a bridge looking at nothing and everything at once. You paint what you feel. She nodded. Sometimes what I fear, and sometimes what you hope. She looked at me then. Only when I'm brave. I thought of what Aidan said, about wanting to feel again, about trying to manufacture a connection through fear. Maybe we had both been drifting in the same fog, but while he turned to chaos, I had turned to silence. Neither had worked. That night, I deleted our shared YouTube channel. Years of clips, laughter, bit montages gone. I saved one video, the first we ever made. A road trip to Oregon, cheap motel beds, laughing until 2 a.m. at absolutely nothing. We were younger then, not wiser, just softer. Less afraid of saying I need you. I'm not sure where our friendship stands now. We text sometimes. Polite, distant, careful. He's trying, but the damage is real. And I'm learning that not all endings come with explosions. Some come quietly, with conversations that don't fix everything, but finally let you sleep again. The silence afterward wasn't peaceful. It was heavy. Like the air itself had turned into something I had to wade through just to move from room to room. Even after deleting the channel, even after that strange, raw conversation with Aidan, I didn't feel better. I felt vacant, like I'd stepped out of my own body and left something important behind. I told Elena I needed some space. She understood. Of course she did. She handed me a sketch of the figure from her painting, the one on the bridge. On the back, she had written, "When you feel yourself vanishing, remember even fog is made of water. You still exist, even if you feel invisible." I put it in my wallet. Then I disappeared. I wandered. City blocks blurred, time warped. I would wake up and not remember where I'd slept. Sometimes on friends' couches, sometimes in cheap hostels, once in my car curled like a comma. I didn't answer messages. I stopped checking social media. I wanted the world to forget me because I didn't know how to carry myself anymore. Everywhere I went, I saw shadows of Aidan. A cafe speaker played one of our old intro songs. A billboard advertised a prank-based streaming show. A stranger's laugh in a bookstore sent a shiver up my spine because it sounded too much like his. I started to wonder, Had our friendship been a performance the whole time? Had I laughed because I wanted to or because I thought I had to? Those questions kept me awake at night. The worst part, I missed him. Not the chaos, not the games, but the boy I once knew. The one who stayed up with me after my dad died even though he had finals. The one who built a pillow fort in our apartment when I got dumped just so I could cry in a stupid tent lit by fairy lights. That version of Aiden. Did he ever exist? Or had I just invented him to survive? One night I found myself in a diner just outside the city. It was nearly empty. Just a trucker at the corner booth, the smell of burnt coffee and me. The waitress poured my third refill and asked if I was all right. I must have looked rough. I hadn't shaved in weeks. My eyes felt like crumpled paper. "I'm fine," I said, but the words cracked. She paused, sat down across from me without asking. "Want to know a secret?" she said. I blinked, nodded. "Most people who say they're fine are full of shit." I laughed, a dry, surprised bark of laughter that startled even me. "Yeah," I said, "you're probably right." She patted my hand and walked away. No lecture, just truth. I watched her pour coffee for the trucker and thought, maybe the world still has quiet kindness. That was the first night I slept soundly. A week later, I went home. Not to the apartment. Home. The house I grew up in. My mum's place. She hadn't seen me in 6 months. She hugged me like I was made of glass. I cried in the kitchen while she made spaghetti. I didn't explain much, just enough. She didn't ask for more, just sat with me, held my hand while the timer ticked on the stove, hummed her old songs under her breath. I had forgotten what it felt like to be loved without performance. In the guest bedroom, I found my old journals. Pages and pages of messy handwriting back when I thought poetry could save me. One entry from sophomore year, "I don't need the world to laugh with me. I just want someone who won't laugh at me when I cry." I closed the journal and wept. Not from sadness, from recognition. I had lost that part of me somewhere along the way. The soft boy, the feeling boy, the boy who didn't perform. I wanted him back. I stayed with my mum for 2 weeks. During that time, I rebuilt rituals, waking up early, making tea, journaling again, sitting outside and watching the sky move. I started therapy. Just one session, but enough to crack something open. My best friend betrayed me, I told the therapist. But I think what really broke me was how easily I let him. She nodded, writing something down. I asked her, "Does that make me weak?" She looked up. "No," she said. "It makes you human. Healing doesn't happen like it does in the movies. There's no triumphant music, just slow returns, like fog lifting inch by inch, like sunlight through dirty blinds. You don't notice it until one day you catch yourself smiling at something small. A dog wearing a hat, a stranger holding the door, and you realize I'm still here." One morning, Eleanor texted, "Coffee, I miss your dumb jokes." I smiled. "Only if you promise to laugh at all of them." She replied with a gif of a seal clapping. It felt good. Not healed, but possible. The coffee shop where Elena waited wasn't fancy. It smelled like burnt espresso and old books. The kind of place that felt too small in winter, but too wide in summer. But it was ours. She was already at the corner booth sipping from a chipped cup sketch pad, open beside her like always. I stood in the doorway for a moment, not out of hesitation, but awe. She looked real, undemanding, like a person who didn't expect you to earn their attention with noise. I walked over. "You're late," she said without looking up. "I'm healing," I replied. "Takes longer to find shoes when your sole's cracked," she chuckled. "Ah, soul fractures, common this time of year." I sat. The chair groaned beneath me like it was used to quieter stories. We didn't talk about Aiden, not right away. Instead, We talked about the clouds, about the pigeon outside who looked like it'd been in a bar fight, about her sketch of a violin lying in a field of sunflowers. "I call it silence after the storm," she said. I nodded. It looks lonely, sometimes silence is. But sometimes it's sanctuary. Days blurred into a kind of rhythm. Coffee with Elena, therapy twice a week, late night walks where I let my mind empty into the night air. I started filming again. Not for YouTube, not for anyone else. Just clips. Birds landing on rooftops, a barista humming, raindrops streaking the subway window. Tiny moments, unimportant. But they made me feel something. One afternoon, Elena invited me to a gallery, a local showcase. Nothing big, her work was featured. I hadn't seen her full collection before. It was stunning. But more than that, it was intimate. Each canvas was a window. A girl curled in bed holding her own shadow. A figure walking away from a house that burned quietly in the background. A hand reaching through a mirror, not for escape, but for understanding. I stood in front of one for a long time. A lone silhouette, back turned watching the horizon. No face, no features, just stillness. She came up beside me. "You see him too, huh?" she whispered. I nodded. "He's not alone, is he?" "No," she said, "but he doesn't know that yet." That night, I told her everything, not just about the alley, but the patterns, the slow erosion of self-worth. The way Aiden's jokes stopped being funny the moment I realised I had become the punchline. The shame of laughing too long, too hard, just to feel included. Eleanor didn't interrupt. When I finished, she simply said, "You were loyal to someone who didn't know what to do with your softness." I looked away. I thought I could change it. Make him see. She shook her head gently. "You can't teach someone to value tenderness if they think emotions are weapons." That sentence stayed with me. I wrote it in my journal that night. Weeks passed, I laughed again. Genuinely, once at a dog in a stroller, once at a man singing karaoke in the park like it was Madison Square Garden. I even cried once during a Pixar short. Not from sadness, from relief, because my feelings weren't numb anymore. I wasn't afraid of them. Aiden texted again. "Hey, been thinking. Want to talk?" I stared at it for a long time. Part of me wanted to ignore it. But another part, the braver part, knew healing isn't about pretending the wound never happened. It's about knowing it did and choosing how to carry it. I showed Elena the message. She didn't tell me what to do, just handed me a pen and said, "Write down what you need, not what you think he wants to hear." So I wrote a message I would send if I chose to. "I don't hate you, but I can't go back to who I was around you." I was smaller then, quieter. I let my fear of losing you turn into a fear of speaking. I found my voice again. I hope one day you do too. I didn't hit send. Not yet, but I saved it. Because it wasn't really for him. It was for me. That weekend, Elena and I drove to the coast. We didn't speak much on the drive, just shared music and watched the trees blur past. When we reached the shore, we stood barefoot in the cold sand, staring at the horizon. "I used to think forgiveness was a door," I said. She tilted her head. "What do you think now?" "It's a window. You don't have to walk through it. Just open it. Let air in." She smiled. "I like that." We stood in silence again, the kind that didn't ache, the kind that healed. The ocean stayed with me long after we left. Something about the way it moved, constant, unbothered, ancient, reminded me of who I wanted to become. Not unfeeling, but unmoved by storms that didn't belong to me. Back in the city, I began to prepare, not like packing for a fight, more like getting ready to visit a ghost. Aiden wasn't the villain in a story. He wasn't some cartoonish manipulator twisting moustaches in the dark. He was human, messy, flawed, but that didn't mean I had to carry his weight forever. I told Eleanor I wanted to talk to him one last time. She didn't flinch. You sure? I nodded. Not for him, for me. The week before our meeting, I made a list. Not a to-do list, a reminder list. Things I knew now. I am allowed to feel deeply without apology. Kindness is not weakness. Trust should be earned, not performed. Silence is not peace when it's soaked in fear. My story does not require his permission to heal. I read the list every morning. I wrote it on a small note card and kept it in my pocket. Not because I was scared I'd forget, but because sometimes courage is just the act of repeating what's true until it stays. I also went back through old videos, not to punish myself, but to understand. I watched the early clips' grainy footage of us lip-syncing in parking lots, doing ridiculous food challenges, prank calling our own professors. We were stupid and free, and there was love in it. I could see it now, beneath the sarcasm, beneath the noise. We had cared. We just hadn't known how to express it without covering it in jokes. Then I watched the later clips. The edge, the shift, jokes that started hurting more than they made us laugh. Moments where I looked at the camera and smiled. But my eyes said something else. That was the hardest part. Seeing me disappear frame by frame. I found one video I had forgotten. It never made it to the channel. It was a private recording. Aidan had secretly filmed me asleep on the couch, wrapped in a blanket, holding a half-eaten sandwich, like it was sacred. In the background, his voice whispered, "This guy, he's been through hell. He's soft, but strong. Stronger than me, probably. He doesn't know I'm filming. But I want to remember this. Not the dumb stuff. Not the pranks. Just this. He makes this place feel like home." I sat with that video for a long time. Then I cried. Because maybe, just maybe, he had loved me in his own broken way. But that didn't mean I had to keep breaking for him. We met at the same cafe where it all began. Not the first prank, the first real moment. Back in college. Two strangers who shared a table, then a conversation, then a bond. It felt poetic, or maybe just cyclical. He was already there when I arrived, still wearing that damn denim jacket with the torn elbow, still drumming his fingers like the world owed him tempo. When he saw me, he smiled, but it didn't reach his eyes. Hey, silence. Then he said it, without prompting. "I'm sorry." I blinked. He stared at his coffee. "I didn't get it before. I thought you were overreacting. But now I see it. The way I hurt you. I didn't speak, just let him keep going. I watched the videos, not the jokes, the ones where you weren't even looking at the camera. I saw it in your face, the way you started, disappearing. That hit harder than I expected. I'm not asking for forgiveness," he continued. "I just wanted you to know I see it now." I looked at him. Really looked. And I saw someone tired. Not defeated, but changed. Or trying to be. "I don't hate you," I said. He looked up. "But I can't go back. I'm not that version of myself anymore. And I think maybe you aren't either." He nodded, swallowed. "I'm sorry it took me so long. I'm sorry it took me so long to leave." We sat for a few minutes. No forced laughter, no pretending. Just two people sitting in the ashes of something they once called friendship. And for the first time that felt okay. Not tragic, just true. When we stood to part, I handed him the note card. The one with my list. "Keep it," I said. "Might help." He took it like it was fragile. "I'll try. I hope you do." We hugged. Not tightly, not dramatically, just enough. I walked away from that cafe with a strange feeling in my chest. Not victory, not sadness, just space. Like a room had been cleared in my heart, waiting to be filled with something new. Maybe something softer, something real. 2 days after the cafe Aidan called. Not texted. Called. That alone felt odd. The last time we'd spoken voice to voice, we were yelling. Before that, we were laughing. And somewhere between those two extremes, the friendship had fractured. I answered. "Hey," he said. Quiet, hesitant. "Hey. I was thinking..." He paused. "Would it be okay if we met again? One last time? No cameras, no distractions, just truth." I didn't reply right away, because I was tired of last times. Tired of closure that unraveled. But something in his voice, it wasn't the same bravado. It was smaller, more careful. "Okay," I said, "but this time we meet on my terms." Of course, we met at the old railway bridge. Not symbolic, just neutral. A place neither of us had history with. A place where nobody had ever laughed or cried in each other's arms. Just metal, wind, and sky. He brought coffee, 2 cups. Didn't ask how I liked it, just handed one over. "Thanks," I said, taking it. He didn't speak at first. Neither did I. We watched the city move in the distance. Cars like beetles, windows glinting, people too small to recognize. Finally, he broke the silence. I wanted to say something I should have said years ago. I looked at him, waiting. I think I never really knew how to be your friend without turning it into a stage. That hurt. But it also explained so much. I think I thought love had to be earned, he continued. That if I made you laugh, made you react, you'd stay. And I did, I said softly. But I wasn't me when I stayed. He nodded. I know that now. You used me, I added. Not because you're evil, but because you were scared. And I let you because I was scared too. That was the truth. The uncomfortable, tangled human truth. He looked away. I hated being the guy who never knew what to say when things got serious. So, I made everything a joke, even the pain. I know I said, I saw it. I just didn't know how to help you without losing myself. Another long pause. Then, I asked the question that had haunted me for months. Was any of it real? He didn't flinch. Yes. That simple. And I believed him. Because even monsters have hearts. And even hurt people can love. Messily. Wrongly. But still. I let the wind fill the silence again. Then I said, I forgive you. He looked shocked. Just like that. No, I smiled faintly. Not just like that. It took months. Tears, therapy, long walks, paintings and poetry. But yes, now I forgive you. He exhaled, like someone who'd been holding his breath for years. Thank you, but I added, forgiveness doesn't mean reunion. He nodded. I know. I sipped my coffee. It was bitter. Too sweet, but it was okay. This is the last time, I said. I figured. We shook hands. Not hugs, not promises, just contact. Final and clear. After he left, I stayed. Watched the sun tilt. Watched the pigeons settle on the power lines, like music notes. And I whispered to no one I made it. Because I had. Through loss. Through betrayal. Through the unravelling of a self I thought was permanent. And now I was someone else. Not better. Not fixed, but real. And real was enough. That night I didn't dream of the alley, or blood, or empty laughter. I dreamed of sunlight through trees, of someone humming in another room, of a version of myself standing still, face tilted to the sky, not afraid anymore. When I woke, I wrote, the scar still aches, but it no longer bleeds. I carry it not as a wound, but as proof I survived being loved the wrong way. I once believed healing would feel like sunlight. Warm, soft, pure. But what no one tells you is that sometimes healing feels like nothing at all, just a strange quietness, like a song you've heard too many times finally fading out. Aidan and I never spoke again. No dramatic unfollow, no rage, no final message left unread, just the quiet kind of parting, like boats drifting from the same dock in opposite directions. I thought I'd feel empty. Instead, I felt space, wide, unfamiliar, sacred space. Eleanor noticed it first. We were sitting on her fire escape eating strawberries and talking about absolutely nothing. She looked at me and said, "You don't flinch anymore." I blinked. Flinch when people laugh, or when your phone buzzes. You don't brace like you're waiting for the floor to drop. I hadn't noticed, but she was right. Something in me had released. That week, I went through my files, deleted old scripts, archived our channel's Google Drive, saved one folder before the break, not to relive, but to remember how far I'd come. One clip Aidan and I at a Halloween party stood out. He was dressed as a skeleton in a tutu. I was a vampire wearing sunglasses at night. We were laughing so hard we couldn't speak. He tripped over a fog machine. I spilled punch on myself. It was ridiculous, but it was real. I smiled. That night was love. Not the kind that lasts forever, but the kind that reminds you even broken things can shine for a while. I asked Eleanor if she believed people could truly change. She stirred her tea and said, "Only if they want to. And even then, it's like climbing a mountain barefoot. Takes time, pain, and no shortcuts." "Think Aidan's climbing?" She shrugged. "Doesn't matter anymore. You're not the one carrying him." That hit me, because I had carried him. For years, in my silences, my compromises, my constant rewriting of reality just to keep peace. But I wasn't his translator anymore. I wasn't his mirror. I was just me. I started filming again, really filming. Not just aesthetic clips or mood reels. I started interviewing strangers, not about gossip or trends, but truth. Questions like, when did you last forgive someone who never apologized? What memory do you carry like a scar but love anyway? What makes you feel most like yourself? The answers cracked me open. A woman said I forgave my mother after she died. Not for her, for me. A boy in a denim jacket whispered, "I miss a friend I had to leave behind because loving them was killing me." A barista said I feel most like myself when I let people see I'm scared. I recorded them all, called the project unscripted. It went nowhere viral, but it changed me, because suddenly I wasn't alone in my pain, and neither were they. Elena painted me once. I didn't know she was doing it. Then, one morning she called me into her studio. There, against a wall, splattered with half sunrises and incomplete storms, was me. But not the version I saw in mirrors. This was centered, calm, barefoot in fog, hands open, eyes forward. Title, "The One Who Stayed." I asked her what it meant. "You stayed," she said, "not for him, not even for me, but for you. You didn't run from your pain. You turned around and faced it." I wanted to cry. Instead, I hugged her. The long, wordless kind. The kind that says, "Thank you for walking with me when I forgot how to stand." I wrote Aidan's name in my journal one last time. Not with rage, not with sorrow, just a sentence. "You were my greatest lesson." Then I turned the page and did not turn back. There's a quiet that comes after the storm, not the eerie silence of waiting for another wave, but the kind that settles in your chest and says, "You're safe now." It doesn't arrive all at once. It builds slowly, whisper by whisper, sunrise by sunrise. I turned 27 in spring, the kind of spring that smells like wet concrete and wisteria. Elena baked me a cake that looked like it had survived a minor earthquake. It was perfect. We sat on her balcony, candles flickering in the breeze, and she asked, "What do you want this year to feel like?" Not do, not achieve, just feel. I paused, then answered honest. She smiled. Then, that's what it will be. That week, I launched the unscripted series on a quiet blog. No ads, no monetization, no filters, just voices, stories, human echoes. People wrote in from places I'll never visit. A girl from Lisbon shared about losing her brother and learning to laugh again. A man from Korea told me he hadn't cried in 15 years until he watched one of my questions whispered by a stranger. An older woman from Ohio sent a voice message saying I thought I was the only one who still dreams of people who left. I played that message over and over because it reminded me every story leaves footprints, even the ones we think are forgotten. I visited my childhood room one weekend. My mum had turned it into a guest space now, but the closet still held echoes. Old notebooks, Polaroids, a shoebox filled with ticket stubs and movie receipts. I found a picture of Aidan and me from our first road trip. We were standing on top of a hill, wind flattening our hair hands thrown in the air, like we were holding up the sky. I stared at it for a long time. Then I smiled, not with regret, with gratitude, because even broken beginnings can give birth to whole endings. One evening, I passed a street performer juggling fire. A small crowd had gathered. He slipped once, just barely, and laughed. A full, unapologetic laugh. No shame, no cover-up, just joy in imperfection. I stood there, tears stinging unexpectedly, because once upon a time I'd been terrified of mistakes, of not being the joke teller, of being the joke. Now, I knew better. There's bravery in vulnerability. There's power in saying, I don't have it all together, but I'm still here. I started writing again. Not for content, not for anyone else, just stories, small ones, about people who walk into cafes and change your life with a sentence, about boys who fall in love with sunsets before they ever fall in love with people, about girls who paint their traumas into galaxies. One day, I might share them, but for now, they're mine. Sacred, soft, unpublished, and unperformed. Elena's painting of me was selected for a citywide showcase. She asked if I'd come to the gallery. I said only if she promised not to wear those neon shoes again. She didn't promise. We went together, and when the gallery director asked about the figure in the fog, Elena didn't call me out by name. She just said, he's someone who learned that love doesn't have to hurt to be real. I exhaled, long, quiet, free. Sometimes Aidan's name still comes up. A mutual friend will ask, you guys ever patch things up? I always say the same thing. We said what needed saying. It's not a lie, it's not bitterness, it's peace. One final journal entry I once feared becoming invisible. But now I understand the best kind of presence is one that doesn't scream. It stands quietly and chooses softness in a world that worships noise. And so, this is where my story ends. Not with a dramatic twist, not with an explosive final scene, but with a quiet man walking home after sunset. A camera in one pocket, a poem in the other, and a heart no longer begging to be seen because it finally sees itself.